In a world.
In a world where people deny the existence of extraterrestrial beings, could it be that these beings have been amongst us for eons? Or do they not exist at all? Let's find out and dive deeper with Deep Speak,
where we ask the questions to the answers of the universe. Follow our crazy trains of thought as we start on one topic and end up
in a whole other dimension.
I love our intro. It's so cute. Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about aliens. How does the X-Files intro go?
I can't whistle. The truth is out there.
All right, if you are on the live, because we apparently can't see who's on the live.
Yeah, we're trying something new here.
Yeah.
It's so strange because I've had a lot of paranormal or odd experiences in my life, but up until 2012, I never saw anything unusual that I would relate to aliens or a UFO, which is, of course, unidentified flying object, but we automatically associate that with the aliens, right?
Everybody thinks it means aliens. Just because we don't know what it is doesn't mean it's aliens.
Right, yeah. Swamp gas, bowl lightning.
That's a Ozzy Osbourne reference.
Yeah.
He always would, on the show with his son, he would always say, it's bowl lightning.
Bowl lightning.
It's not aliens, it's ball lightning.
Bowl. I don't want to get into my encounters until I know I'm actually live.
No, we're recording either way.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to interrupt the podcast too much, but I just definitely wanted to let everybody know, if you're listening to this, to please do us a big favor. We could really use your help. Hit the like button. It's a very simple little thing. Just click the little like button, click the subscribe button, click the follow button, click the little notification bell. It really helps us a lot. We don't make any money off of what we do. We are just putting this all out there, but we would like to reach more people who really enjoy this. And on that note, if you know anyone else who would like to enjoy and explore different weird topics with us, please share this video with them or share our channel with them. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It all started in September 2012. All right, so I
Tell
never
me about it. Yeah,
I never had an experience before that, but shout out to Jake, who I'd love to talk on a podcast in the future about this, because we always talk about aliens. He might be one.
I'm an alien.
Well, I don't know what day it was anymore, but September 2012 was an odd month, and we went outside to smoke a cigarette, and we were talking about who knows what, music or something, and this is Janesville, Wisconsin, and then from the west, all of a sudden, a whitish yellow ball of light,
ball lightning,
rose up from the west, and we both noticed it immediately. My first thought was, there's an airport, southern Janesville, and I'm like, oh, it's just a plane or whatever, until I realized there was no red and blue lights, no other lights, no wings. But it was just perfectly round, and it had the shape of like the landing light of an airplane, right?
Ooh.
But it made no sound. And we both fell silent and followed this thing as it, rose above us from the west, and then all of a sudden sharply turned southward and accelerated. And we just stared at it the whole time in silence as it eventually faded off into the southern sky. It looked like it actually was after it had made that 90-degree turn, it accelerated. It actually seemed like it was ascending also, like it went further up into the sky instead of like just fading into the horizon, so to speak. And then it was gone, and then came the what the hell was that?
Wow.
Like I said, at first I thought it was an airplane, but there was no sound whatsoever. It was a pretty decent sized light. It wasn't like a little flicker up in the atmosphere because I've seen Chinese lanterns You know, it didn't appear to be anything like that. It had no flickering. There was no flickering at all. It was just a solid light. And what came afterwards is almost stranger, that I went to work and I had multiple people come up to me and just start talking about seeing a ball of light emerge. Other people saw it, but in different areas. I was in Janesville and I worked in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and I had at least three people come up to me and tell me different occurrences where they had seen something that same day or weekend, described it just like I saw it. So the strangest thing wasn't just that they had their own experiences, but why did they come to me and tell me about it? I didn't run around work talking about aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I didn't really talk to people much at all, you know. The one was one of the lake, I think it might have been Trip Lake in Whitewater, you know, saw one rise basically over the water and then change speed and accelerate off. Another one I think was in a cornfield or something like that. And then there was a guy at work too that handed me a paper. This is very X-Files like, and it literally was an article about all the UFO sightings that happened that week in the Whitewater area. That was really strange. So it wasn't just people I worked with or myself, but apparently there was a mass sighting of these balls of light around that same time period.
Oh.
And that was my first encounter with anything I would call a UFO, unidentified flying object.
What, did you have another one?
Yeah, this is a very different story, but still a UFO.
Okay.
My birthday, 2019.
Okay.
You were there.
Yeah.
So we visited the crater in Arizona. There were all kinds of strange synchronicities around that, for one. We got in the car and we were listening to kill the time. We were listening to, this is our road trip. So we were driving to California, trying to make it to Joshua Tree. And we turn on Ancient Aliens and the audio, and then the episode starts out with just outside Winslow, Arizona.
Yeah, that was so weird.
And we're like, what the hell? So strange synchronicity there. And we were talking about how it was really cool, maybe a little overpriced, you know, but we made up the story, if you remember, about like transpermia, if you've ever heard of that, you know, like life originating from elsewhere and landing, and you know, on Earth basically, and
that humanity was seeded.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether intentional or just that's how life works in the universe,
right.
You know.
Or seeds just blew from other galaxies and landed on Earth and grew little human beings.
So we were talking about that, and I think we made up a story. But I can't remember if we made up that story at that moment or when we were in Joshua Tree.
I was when we were in Joshua Tree.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, we just made up this little story.
No,
about...
I had said, you said, what would you like to do on the trip? And I said, well, I would like to experience two things.
Yeah.
I would like to see a Sasquatch, and I would like to see aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't...
We were just coming back from San Francisco, I think. Right? We were driving home
You
from
fast
dinner.
Forwarded, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
just fast forward. That's fine.
Yeah, you did say that.
So we were
and
driving
I said,
back.
be careful what you wish for. So on my birthday, we were driving back from San Francisco. We were around Pacifica when we noticed glowing sky in the southern horizon, basically. The whole time I was trying to logically, you know, make sense of it. I thought that it was Half Moon Bay in the distance, or
like city lights.
City lights, basically, yeah. And you were like, no, that just looks weird. It seems like it's moving, and I'm like, well, we're moving. You know, I kept trying to explain it, and because it just looked like city lights look in
Big
a sky,
cloud.
right?
It looked like
Big
a cloud that had
cloud.
lights underneath it that
Right.
was shining up from
Yes.
into it or something
Yeah.
like that. So
we got closer, and it just seemed like a matter of minutes, and this thing suddenly was over us, moving. It
Over
changed.
us.
It appeared
Yeah.
to change direction. It was now heading like towards us, basically. We were heading into it, and it was heading over us.
right.
And I don't know if we were even talking anymore, But you were looking up at it, and you did snap some pictures when it was behind us.
Yeah, because we were so.
We were just kind of like, what the hell
world
is that? It was completely dark. There was no sunset. It was completely overhead, and it was just this glowing freaking cloud.
It was really weird. No noise.
Very strange. No noise at all.
Very strange.
And then next thing you know, after it was behind us, I could see it in the rearview mirror. It was gone.
Yeah.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the weirdest experience. Like, is that a UFO? Is that aliens? So I got back to work, and one of the guys that works there that was ex-military asked me, he's like, did you see any UFOs on the West Coast? I'm like, and again, this is a different workplace, but still, I don't go around talking about stuff like that. And I'm like, actually, yeah, I did have a weird experience. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, I hear a lot about people seeing, things out there on the coast. Mm-hmm. He didn't have any stories for me, but he was just very serious, and I'm like, yeah, well, there might be something, because I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
I think I looked up, I don't know if they're Oort clouds or whatever glowing clouds are, that can be seen once in a while, but that didn't. The images of Oort clouds or whatever they're called did not look like what we saw at all. Mm-hmm. And it didn't move like one of those type of clouds either. It actually was moving the opposite of the weather. The clouds were actually coming in off the coast.
I want to learn more about aliens. What else do we know about aliens? What do we think about them?
So UFOs aren't necessarily aliens, but it seems to be technology that we don't understand. So isn't it weird that we had that disclosure in, was it 17 or 18?
Yeah, that was so crazy that the Pentagon released that triangular, looking video.
There are two of them. I think the first one was the Tic Tac.
Tic Tac. Joe Rogan's favorite
which was
word.
Over the Pacific coast.
Right.
And then the other one was the triangular one, I believe, was later on. But either way, it's like no one paid attention to that. It was so strange.
No, everyone was just consumed with their own stuff. But I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that for so long, the government has not only covered everything up, but they've also created kind of a stigma, like a campaign against believing it. So I think what they do is they actually create hoaxes, and I think they're doing that now too, where they'll create hoaxes or fake posts or certain things that they'll put out into the public, which are provable that they're false, right? That look believable at first, but then they show that they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
That they're not real. And so what that does is it dumbs down, or it causes a feeling of betrayal or distrust, ultimately, from any sort of information in that category or like that. And so when we're looking at any kind of post that pops up, so they were doing that with the Ukraine stuff. We were seeing some Ukraine posts, and I can't prove it either way, that were like, that's crazy. And then we're like, oh, well, that's not real, and that's not real, and that's not real. And then we're like, was anything real? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what I think people started to just feel like, I'm not going to try to get excited or think that there are any UFOs, because either we see a crazy two-toothed man in a trailer saying he got abducted and probed by aliens, or we're finding that it was somebody who threw a frisbee in the air and made it look like that with CGI. So, and then also because of CGI and all of the video editing and photo editing that we have available to the common person right on your phone, anybody can create a hoax now.
Right.
So we can't believe anything. So they've created a situation where, like, well, we don't know. We can't believe anything, so we're just not going to even dream.
Well, yeah, sadly, the other thing isn't just visual technology and manipulation, but the fact that there's drones everywhere and there are aircraft in our skies more than there's ever been.
That's true. There's a lot more UFOs, and that just means things that we can't identify for ourselves, because we have so much technology out there now too. So we have technology that can edit things, and we have technology that are
So if you were to believe that this footage was legitimate, from the military, and and you look into it, it's actually pretty interesting if you keep that open mind, because there's been a few like visual studies on it that seem to indicate that there's like a cold halo around the Tic Tac object.
Right.
For one.
Yeah, it's not heat generated.
Right. No propulsion. And two, there's several different like shows you can watch and stuff that show what you're looking at, because nobody has experience flying a fighter jet, and it shows like how abruptly it changed direction. Like it's not we can't maneuver like that at that speed.
Right.
So the other interesting thing that I found about the whole like cooling thing is that we're messing around now with quantum computers, which need extreme cold to function properly. So I kind of put the two together. I haven't really heard it discussed much, but like, could it be some kind of like quantum cooled propulsion system with gravity or electromagnetism that we just haven't figured out yet? Because what's that disc we saw, that I can't think of the name of it, but that little hockey puck. Group. We posted it, where, it achieves levitation basically with similar principles.
Right, with magnetic something.
Yeah. So anyway, there is some emerging science to this, but if that exists, who's flying it? Is it us and we just don't know?
Right.
Maybe that another country has it. Is it like some kind of black ops where we don't know that a secret government has this technology, and therefore our own government's like, what is this? It's not ours, is what they say. Well, what if it is, but it's just not our military?
Right.
Or is it extraterrestrials or extra dimensional beings?
Yeah. Well, and that's something I'd like to discuss too, the difference between extraterrestrial and interdimensional. But I think there's one thing that I know for sure. We don't know a lot about. We can't be sure about anything, right? I mean, obviously we can be sure about our own experiences and things like that, but it's hard to prove anything. But I can tell you this. I don't trust NASA. I don't trust NASA at all. Like, I just don't. It's an arm of the government. I don't believe it. I don't believe anything that they tell us is true, and I don't believe anything that they tell us is not true. So we can't really tell what is truth and what's not truth, and so we just kind of have to sit back, and this is why I feel this way about the whole alien discussion, because I personally have had that UFO. That was probably the only UFO thing I ever experienced, was that light cloud flying over us, which was very strange. And it wasn't, lightning or anything explainable, right? But then I haven't really had any other experiences.
Yeah.
Personally.
Me either, right.
So it's hard for me to say, but just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it's not true. But I don't have a lot of thoughts about that because I don't have anything really to go off of, and I can't prove anything. But I do know that NASA lies. I know the government lies, and I also know that it's interesting that we live in this gigantic universe that is inconceivably large. And how in the world do we think us tiny little people are the only things that exist in the world? Universe.
The Drake equation is such a good, interesting thing. I learned that really young.
You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, it basically takes the probability of life existing in our known visible universe. So it takes all of the galaxies we know exist, and then it takes the probability of solar systems within those galaxies. And then within those solar systems, the number of planets, approximate, and then, which ones would be habitable to our life forms, blah, blah, blah. And then you get, you get an equation that basically shows that there's like a very high likelihood that there is life in the universe, basically.
Yeah.
Through math and science. And it's an old equation.
Yeah.
So everybody that likes their known science, can lean to that. I just think that's really interesting. So the other aspect to that is time and space. Like, I don't think people realize, we can only see things from our perspective, which is stuck here on Earth. And we don't even realize that you go, we've talked about this before, time dilation, you go above the Earth's atmosphere and you already are changing time.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you watched Interstellar, that plays on that. Like the further away you don't age as much as somebody on Earth would age, blah, blah, blah.
That's a good movie to really understand time dilation.
Yeah. So, if you think of things in that way, all of a sudden it becomes clear that millions of years on Earth could be nothing the further you get out into space, and gravity.
Right.
So to say that there's nothing out there is I think it's ignorant, because time can exist completely different just outside of our solar system or just outside of our own Earth.
Yeah.
So
further you get away from gravity.
Right. There could be civilizations that existed millions of Earth years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it depends. We're measuring time based on our years here on this planet.
Right.
So
the Egyptians that took off and the other pyramids that are missing are flying their little pyramid spaceships out in some other galaxy, and they just left like yesterday, but to us it seems like it was thousands of years ago.
I know. There's so much sci-fi that loves pyramids because they're such enigmatic features, obviously, and there's a lot of mystery to them.
But you have to admit, the fact that there are temples in Mexico with Mercury underneath them is very,
that
very
is what's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if we're talking about it. I love ancient aliens, but sometimes they stretch stuff.
How do you know they're ancient?
But at the same time, it has raised my attention to things that I never knew before either, too.
It raises good questions.
Yeah.
Doesn't give you a lot of answers, but it raises good questions.
No, I don't think that aliens necessarily built these temples, but it is interesting that we really don't have solutions that are plausible for how they could have been built.
Right.
Rolling these multi-ton bricks across countries on wood rollers is laughable. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Even saying we transported them on rivers is still something that would be hard for us to do,
I still think the theory that it's done with sound waves is most plausible.
Yeah.
That we had the ability to do that
levitation.
stuff back then. Which I think we actually have the ability to do now again, too. But there's so much stuff. We are stunted. I think we are stunted.
Absolutely.
In not only in our human evolution as us as human beings and our abilities to use our minds for more than just what we think we can use them for, but also in our technology. We think we're so advanced in technology, but I think we definitely are stunted. I mean, if we supposedly went to the moon back in 1969... we don't have, we have cell phones, but our technology is like really behind.
Yeah.
Moore's equation or Moore's law should mean that we should be way more advanced by now.
Right.
And I think that that's partly because of their powers that are holding us back.
Yeah.
They're corporations and, companies, elite, that are creating situations that are causing us to not be able to evolve because they don't make money off of it.
Right.
So I don't want to interrupt the podcast too much, but I just definitely wanted to let everybody know, if you're listening to this, to please do us a big favor. We could really use your help. Hit the like button, click the subscribe button, click the follow button, click the little notification bell. It really helps us a lot.
I also feel that's very strongly a fact that, our government or somebody's government has a lot of technology that we don't even know exists.
The shadow government.
Yeah, absolutely. Because,
free energy for sure.
Yep. The internet was known about, World War II. They had the internet. We didn't see it until the 1980s, 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now.
I'm sure they got so many things that we have no clue about,
Right. It's annoying. It makes me so mad. I just want a free world. I really do. I want a free world that we can grow and explore and help each other and nurture each other and expand in all different kinds of ways, and not this stupid, let's explore the 5,000 different forms of gender. That's so primitive. Can we just let go of race and sex and move forward? Like, there's so many more interesting things in the world and so many more interesting things about each of these people than their skin color or their sexual preference. Come on.
Yep.
There's depth to you.
It's got to be interesting if you were an alien looking down on our behaviors.
I just feel like they're shaking their heads. Like, what the hell happened to these things? What? They're like, I just left the planet for a minute and I come back and y'all a big mess.
So what do you think about ancient alien theory? Do you think they were here in our past?
Okay, so if aliens exist, there's some things that I think. I know nothing, but my feeling is that they are still here. I also am a huge Star Trek Next Generation fan, and I tend to believe that there is a Prime Directive, is what it was called, and it is basically saying that prohibits its members from interfering with the natural development of civilizations. So I feel like in my world, I tend to believe that might be part of it, that aliens would only interfere if we were going to do something like Star Trek would be watching other civilizations, that I think aliens would be doing the same thing. Like, oh God, they're going to blow themselves up. Like, get their fingers out of the light socket quick. But other than that, I think that they would just observe us. They'd appreciate us. They'd maybe learn some things from us. So, if they're more advanced than us.
Yeah, that leads me to another question.
But there might be other civilizations that aren't as advanced as us.
Right.
There might be more monkeys hanging around in other planets.
Right, we make the assumption that if they can travel here, that they must be advanced, Right. But
we throw probes out everywhere.
Right.
When we didn't know nothing.
Right. We have a lot of garbage. Our planet's surrounded by satellites and junk,
Like, oh, that's that garbage planet, Earth? And they wouldn't call it Earth. We were probably named ZR256 beep bop boo bob bob.
So, do you think that aliens would actually be extraterrestrial, like coming from another physical planet, or do you think they're extra dimensional?
Okay, so if you believe that this world is 1, real, 3D, made up of matter, 2, round, and that the universe is round and we're not believing in flat Earth sort of theory, and 3, that we're not in assimilation, which kind of relates to 1 as well, or that we're not all just perceiving it as what it is. And so if we believe the materialistic kind of version of Earth, that we are here and everything is made up of matter, then what was the question?
Then I think where you were going was you would probably believe they're extraterrestrial.
Well, yeah. Well, then I can't imagine. Did you ever see that little video that they make that's like, this is the Earth, and then this is the moon compared to the Earth, the sun compared to the Earth, Saturn, Jupiter, and then as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the sun is huge compared to everything, and then you have these bigger planets that are just like ridiculous. And then that's just in our galaxy.
Right, our local.
And then have you ever seen where you could actually put a needle of a pin, like the size of the tip of a needle.
Right.
That's what I meant. Needle of a pin. What the hell? In the sky, and then that is filled with like billions of galaxies.
Right. In that pin.
In that point. It's just the tip of the needle. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that makes your mind just go like that. It has to absolutely be impossible to not have life forms even somewhat similar to what we would call biological life form.
Right.
Anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's not intelligent.
What if
We're still discovering shit inside the oceans here.
Right, yeah.
We don't even know what's inside of our own oceans, yet alone we have people thinking, well, there can't be any other beings outside of in the space,
I know.
which is vast.
It's laughably ignorant. We just discovered Zealandia, another continental shelf, off the coast of Australia. We didn't even know it was there.
Yeah,
We've been proclaiming, there's definitely not Atlantis, and there's nothing under the oceans because we've mapped it all out. And we know
so
all that.
crazy to me that people can be that limited in their belief systems.
Yeah, oops, we missed this whole continent.
I mean, the biggest thing is that, we have known knowns and we have known unknowns, but we also have unknown unknowns.
Unknown unknowns,
So
is it
that's why we're open-minded skeptics.
That both things are true, that they could be extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional or interdimensional? Like, what if they do have some physicality to them, as we would describe it, but they also have the ability to travel somehow interdimensionally?
So they would be extraterrestrial, interdimensional travelers.
Travelers, right.
Maybe.
Say that one.
But I think that I tend to believe more in I tend to think that we're more in like a perception-based world and that we have more control over our reality than we believe.
Yeah.
And based on perception, based on biocentrism kind of theory of an object doesn't actually exist unless you're observing it.
Right.
And the double slit theory, blah, 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 blah. And then if that's the case, then I tend to think that we're in a third dimensional perception and that there are higher dimensions and obviously some lower dimensions. And so I tend to believe that there are higher dimension beings. And I don't know, it could be that we are also in higher dimension and we're just concentrated our soul to be able to fit into a third dimension density. But we're still connected through some other forms energetically to higher dimensions. That's what I tend to believe. And I think that that's how I tend to believe that that's how we work, how we're like, we're connected to everything. I believe that God is at a highest dimension that we can't even perceive. So I think that that's why it's kind of strange why we have so many religions and things like that, is because I think people are always trying to conceptualize and understand dimensions.
Yes.
Right. And so I think angels probably fall into that. I think aliens fall into those. I tend to like the idea more of interdimensional beings, meaning beings that are vibrationally in alignment with like 7th dimension or 11th dimension, things like that.
Yeah.
Where again, like we can't conceptualize it from our perspective. Like if you are in a one-dimensional, or let's say a two-dimensional world, right? And everything is lines, you can't see anything outside of
that line.
Those lines. Like you couldn't see anything above because there's no such thing as above, So it's a two-dimensional world would be, you can't perceive what 3-dimension is. So try to be a 3-dimension trying to perceive 4. We can get there a little bit and kind of understand that it's like moving in and out of itself, right? But then to conceptualize 5, 6, 7, and they've already gone, I think they've gone up to like 13 where they're saying this, it's almost provable that we have at least 13 dimensions, if not more, that are out there. So what if there's infinite? What if God is at, a quadrillion dimension?
Yeah.
We don't know. And what the hell would that be?
Yeah.
And I tend to think that it probably all comes back to a single point, right? So all time exists all time with God, and I think those concepts are that's how I think of it, and I think that's more fascinating than thinking that there are other fleshy beings hanging out on another planet that can kind of fly in their metal spaceship and physically come and look at us. I don't know. I think it's more interesting to think that other dimensions can pop in and out of our reality.
Yeah.
because of science, not because of wooey-hooey stuff, you know?
I think it was
Which
that,
is wooey-hooey,
like what you're talking about, the third dimension entering the second dimension, or maybe, no, it was the fourth dimension entering into the third. You would see something appear, grow, and then contract and disappear.
Yeah, that's what, if you were a line and you were seeing a ball come into your reality, it would look like, you would see the front of the ball would just look like it was growing.
Right.
And then it would look like, and when you pull it away, it would look like it would disappear.
Right.
But it's just, you can't see beyond that perception.
But isn't that interesting?
People need to understand that.
Right.
They don't, though.
No, I mean, that's basic science. Like, you don't have to be that advanced mathematically to understand that.
No, and there's great videos out there.
Right, there is. But isn't that interesting that that's what a lot of UFOs look like? Or ghosts, even, that things like tend to appear, balls of light tend to appear, expand and contract.
Right, yeah. So, you know what I think is really interesting about aliens, though?
Tell me.
I really liked the videos that we were watching over Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, that was interesting. Yeah, only one season. That was what it was called.
Yeah. And over the mountains, what were they called? You know that.
Yeah. It's in Utah. Oh my God, there's a documentary, not to be confused with the show that they did like a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a documentary.
Yeah.
Where they did experiments.
Yeah.
They went and they set up the lights or their cameras at night vision and all these sort of things, right? And then you would see these lights like pop up behind this mountain, and it was unexplainable because there's nothing out there. There's nothing reflecting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them you couldn't see from the naked eye even.
Right.
You had to see it on their special cameras.
Yeah, they were looking right at it and saw nothing, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then eyes, all of the weird situations where you would see that the cows would be disturbed, like they'll start running.
Yeah.
And, like there's all these sort of things that happen around UFO sightings. So
yeah.
But again, could it be military? The government has advances that the government has moved along with Moore's law and is very advanced in a lot of things that we don't even know about.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting, bringing it back to Skinwalker Ranch, is because it was owned by I can't think of his name, but he was is a subcontractor for the government. He owns whatever aerospace, and I can't think of it right now. But he was the previous owner of Skinwalker Ranch, where he originally did all of these experiments out there with the military. And he basically sold it. And that's why it was being studied now recently by different people.
Right.
It's interesting that he's come out, Robert Bigelow Aerospace.
There you go. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, aliens are real, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's very outspoken. Now, he's a contractor for the government. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And they were studying this particular plot of land for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet we still know nothing. We know nothing. It makes you wonder, if they learn stuff, that we don't know out there,
I'm wondering what you think about ley lines and how they relate to aliens and alien sightings.
Oh, that's a good one. We wanted to do a whole episode on that. I do think there's something related to that. I think it has something to do with the construction of the Earth, personally, because another thing with Skinwalker Ranch was the discovery of electromagnetic anomalies beneath the ground.
Yeah.
Now, we know that seismic activity and volcanoes can sometimes create its own ball lightning or energy, emissions, basically, like plasma and stuff like that. That can happen.
Right.
But there's these ley lines are anomalies that seem to form patterns on the Earth.
Yeah.
If you map them out. I personally think that it might be the construction of our Earth hologram. I don't know how, but I feel like it's not just a physical thing. I think that Earth emits its electromagnetism, works with the materials of the Earth, the magnetically charged, rocks and material that we have.
Yeah.
But somehow I think that that if interdimensional beings exist, that they might know how to travel between these energetic lines
Portals,
or portals,
too.
basically.
Yeah, I remember seeing some interesting documentaries about ley lines relating to portals and missing people.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, like these
Yep.
areas that like, oh, I don't know. And how people would have been, like they were missing in one area and ended up in another
Yeah.
totally different part of the country.
Yep.
And they don't know how they got there. So that stuff's really interesting too. I think
Definitely.
there's so much to consider there, and there's so much that we don't know that it's so hard to say what is and what isn't true. But if aliens exist, extraterrestrials, let's talk about specifically, if they exist, are they good or are they evil?
That's the
What do you think?
exact thing. Well, I don't know. What if they're both? I feel like there could be more than one. I don't want to say race, but there could be more than one type of alien, or maybe different subspecies of alien that exist in different dimensions, maybe.
Well, let's only talk about extraterrestrials.
Okay, so if they were physical beings.
Yes, physical beings.
Oh,
from
that's a
other
tough
planets.
one. It kind of goes down the what is good and evil thing, but I think they're good personally.
Let's just say the difference is those who want to help and those who want to harm.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to believe they're all good, but I honestly feel like there could be good and evil.
Oh my God. This is why I think it's so funny when you ask this question to people and they answer. And we'll read some of the answers from our Facebook group. People have answers on there, and I really want to get to that. We will in a little bit. But I really think it's fascinating when people want to collectively group things as all good or all evil in any way. Because think about us, right? Like, are humans good or are humans evil? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And then you think about, okay, well, is all of Wisconsin good or is all of Wisconsin evil? Like, yes.
Yeah.
There's both.
Right.
And then you could break it down to a city, an area, a town, a neighborhood, your own household, right? There's going to be good and evil. And then break it down to yourself.
Yeah.
We all have good and bad inside of us.
Right.
We're all dualistic in nature. So I think that would fall the same as alien species. So you think about the Palladians that people talk about, which look the most, are supposed to look the most humanoid, the most like us, blonde hair, blue eyes, tall, and very beautiful, which is so funny because look at humans. How would you describe humans? All shapes, colors, and sizes. I don't know. I mean, we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose and a mouth, 2 legs. You know, like we have some similar features, but I don't know. It's just funny when people try to describe them as all looking one way or all looking another way because they're going to be different. But the Palladians, you're going to think an entire planet or entire solar system. Isn't Pleiades a solar system? Yeah.
Yeah.
You think that entire solar system is full of people who all look the same or similar, and they're all good-hearted people.
Well,
or
I'm sorry.
species.
It's a collection of stars. I don't even think there's planets.
Oh, so you don't call it a solar system.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, that's so ridiculous because there's got to be, if duality exists in this 3D reality that we're in, right? And it does. We have contrast. That's what this is made of. That's what 3D is all about, contrast, right? So how in the world could you think that all Palladians are going to be good or all of them would be bad? All of the grays are going to be good or all of the grays are going to be bad? There's got to be a mix. Mm-hmm. If they're anything at all like a human with being intellectual or whatever, unless they're super advanced and they've gone through all of these cycles and they've been around for trillions of years and they've gotten past all of the whole weird, things that we're going through as a humanity, the strive for power and stuff like that. If they're completely abundant, it would eliminate all of the strife that we experience in humanity, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're fully abundant and they're fully advanced and they've learned that the only thing good about living is to live in peace and love and harmony and have minor contrast, then maybe, yeah. But it's hard to think that would even be true.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because I'm coming from my limited human experience. Maybe there are full races of aliens that could be all good and all evil. But we'll never know. We just don't know. I think it's funny that people will say aliens are good and aliens are bad.
I know.
And it's like, okay, but there's different kinds of aliens, don't you agree?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so which kinds are good and which kinds are bad?
And then they'll
Like,
go
oh, come on.
yeah,
Nobody knows.
all that, right?
Y'all don't know nothing about nothing. Stop acting like you know everything.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this race is bad. The
Right.
reptilians are bad. And what? You don't even know if
You
any
don't
of these
know.
even exist.
You don't know. There are people who think that they channel them. But how do you know? How do you know that that's what you're channeling?
Right.
That's okay. I mean, I'm not saying you're not, but I'm saying, but how do you know?
Here's shifting gears. Are aliens us in our future?
Oh, I've always thought that, like, the Greys, especially as we're moving into this weird kind of non-gender, genderless, desirable world in the woke world, that they're all like, no, gender doesn't exist.
With large
It's a
eyes.
concept.
Large eyes is a
And they're
desirable
mutilating
trait.
themselves
Right.
and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It's funny because if you think about, like, the Greys, they supposedly don't have any genitals, right? They're androgynous. And then they also are gray, which if you mix black and white, what do you get?
Right.
I mean, although people aren't black and people aren't white, we're shades of brown and peach, but
Right.
and olive.
I get it. That was fun.
But I don't know. It just seems like it could happen where we end up loving technology more than we love each other, and we stop breeding for love. We start breeding as a necessity in tubes or in fake wombs or whatever, and so we have no need for genitals anymore, and we're all terrified of viruses, so we don't touch each other. I don't know. It could be it's such a possibility. But then at some point, and I've heard this theory, that at some point they come back, they've learned to time travel back to be able to kind of gather reproductive organs or reproduce here and then bring to continue humanity in the gray civilization in the future, because they don't have the ability to reproduce in the future, or their lines have been tainted or something like that. I don't know. It's all fascinating sci-fi stuff, I think, but I don't know. I'd love to hear an actual person who had an abduction experience.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting to listen to, on TV and stuff like that. And I know these people are real. Like, they're in the tens of thousands. There's way more abductees.
Yeah, and they're not all weirdos.
They're not, yeah.
Right.
But I've never personally talked to anybody that's had that,
Well, and how do you know the difference? Because a lot of them, they talk about it as if it was a dream. I mean, think about Betty and Barney Hill, right? That they're a famous couple from way back in the 60s that have an extraordinary story of abduction. But think about the dream that I had. I was in Texas visiting my daughter in February of 2018, right? And I had this extremely detailed dream. And to me, when I think about it, it still feels like a memory. You know how dreams fade. But this dream doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like I'm remembering something, which is so odd. I don't know if anyone else has ever had a dream that didn't feel like a dream and it felt like a memory.
Definitely.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Which makes you think, okay, did I time travel? Am I astral projecting? Like, it could be all kinds of things. I want to do a whole episode on dreams because I love dreams.
We haven't yet?
No, we haven't.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
So, but I had this dream that, long story short, that I was in this room on a ship, and there were beds in it. It looked like a spa room, actually, because it was like low lit. There was this giant cabinet, white cabinet, backlit cabinet full of like different vials or whatever, and these 2 beds on the sides. And there were people who were receiving like this intravenous kind of injection into them, but nothing felt bad. It didn't feel evil. It didn't feel bad. I wasn't scared. And it felt like it was something that I knew was supposed to be happening. Like I already knew it. So I was there. They bring me into this room, and the people who were getting their injections leave the room. It's so detailed. I can't, it's like I could draw. I wish I could draw, because I would draw it for you. And then 2 people beings in lab coats. They're taller than me. They come in and they each stand next to me, and I'm facing this backlit cabinet, and they inject something into my neck on the left side. And then I thought I was being injected, because I didn't know I guess I didn't really know what was happening. I just know that I agreed to it. And then I pass out and they catch me. And then as they catch me, they pull the thing out of my neck, and I can see the vial that came out. They actually were extracting this, like, it looked like I don't know, like beer, I guess. It was like a yellowish
like
color,
amber.
Clear. Yeah, I guess it wasn't amber. It was more like yellow. It looked like pee, okay? It was more like a pea color, but it was in the vial, right? And that was it. Right. And I was like my agreement that I was like letting them take this serum of some sort, the essence of me or something from me. It was not evil. So I hate it when I have people say, oh, they implanted or they did something bad to you. I'm like, my soul knows that whatever that was a good thing. It wasn't a bad thing. I know it 100%. If it was real, but I dreamed it because I woke up. And when I woke up, I did have a weird mark on my neck. It wasn't a scar or a it was just a weird little mark on my neck.
I forgot about that part of the story.
Yeah, but it didn't look like it was something that scabbed over or anything. So it was like...
Was it just a little mark? Like a little red mark?
I don't know. I don't really remember. I just remember looking at it because I could feel I could kind of still feel my neck felt strange.
Oh,
but,
boy.
But okay, so that's my only thing. But I'm still like, that was a dream. I wasn't awake when that happened. So how can I prove that would be a real thing?
Yeah.
Right. But it was something about like helping humanity. It was a helping thing. It definitely wasn't a bad thing. Don't come at me in the comments with some, you've been blah, blah, blah.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done with that. But how do you know?
Yeah.
How can they prove it? I wish we could prove it somehow.
Sometimes I do wonder if there is a link between dreams and dimensions, which we definitely got to do a podcast on that too. But that just reminded me, I'd never had a dream experience like that, but I do remember in the 90s where I had a very vivid, I won't get into details because I honestly don't remember, but I just remember having several vivid alien dreams. But the one that was the strangest was waking up and I think I said something, and my sister and both my parents we all dreamt about some kind of
collective
dream that
That's
night.
So fascinating.
In the
creepy.
90s, that was we were all like, okay, the strange year that was 1996.
Wow.
Just a very weird year. But yeah, we all had a collective alien dream.
Wow.
So that was pretty odd.
Yeah. I don't know. If you've had an alien encounter, a UFO encounter, or even a dream that felt like it was a memory that had to do with aliens of some sort, please comment below. Please let us know. We really like to know about these things.
Yeah.
Want me to read people's stuff?
There we go. That's good. Let's head to the comments section.
So I asked the questions, are aliens among us? Are they evil? And Sarah said, I believe they are among us. Are they evil? Not sure. I'm right there with you, Sarah. Jeremy said, ever notice how sightings and contact are associated with cattle farm animal mutilations, abductions, and horrific human experimentations, tests, rectal probing, non-consensual sexual activity, sleep paralysis, time loss, or amnesia? Or they give warnings about global catastrophes, but they never lift a freakishly long finger to do anything to actually help. Seems pretty evil to me. Now, I think we're sensational. We are a species that loves sensational stuff, right? So we kind of cling to things that seem like they catch your attention, like wow, the wow factor.
Yeah.
And scary stuff does that to us, right? That's why horror films are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Right. So how boring was our story about the UFO and the cloud flying over us? Pretty fucking boring, right?
Right.
Like nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't. Why? Because nothing interesting happened.
Right.
Right? And then, so if we would have said it brought us up into the cloud and it took my
a sample
ovaries or something, right? Like, then they would be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But that
is leaning towards a lot of sensationalism, especially in movies and media. But there actually are a lot of people.
A ton of stories.
There are a lot of stories that actually say the opposite. That their experiences seem to be that they were trying to help, or
friendly,
that they were, doing whatever, healing sometimes. You can believe what you want to believe, but there are definitely, like anything else, multiple angles to every story.
And also remember, we're talking about a media that is run by and funded by large corporations and government entities that have agendas to suppress certain information and push other agendas. So if they're trying to push aliens as being crazy, tinfoil hat stuff, that's what they're going to show you. And they're also going to show you that they're evil too. So I'm not saying they're not. Lee says, not interstellar, but interdimensional demons, and which I thought was interesting. So like, demons, dark energy, deep evil stuff, I think would come from lower dimensions. I think the higher you go up, the vibrational, your frequency actually rises.
Right.
So a fourth dimension and above would be a higher vibrational dimension.
Right.
Like literally, scientifically, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So it becomes harder and harder to be, first of all, to be dense, right, in matter, but secondly, to be focused in a very lower mindset of anger, because anger, frustration, those frequency and vibrations of fear, all those are lower dimensional.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know that they can even belong to higher dimensional beings, but now Lee does say interdimensional, so maybe that means they can pop in and out of different dimensions. So
maybe
interloopers.
Yeah.
Lisa Lacey, she says, I don't know what to think about when Two-Face the Gray documentary alludes to cattle mutilations and human mistreatment being of the government to make sure people are afraid of aliens. Yeah. So that's a movie or documentary she's asked us to watch several times, and I keep forgetting. I'm sorry, Lisa. I definitely do want to see that. Maybe we'll look it up today and actually watch it on a Sunday afternoon. But it's interesting to think that, maybe that is true. Maybe that the government does stage certain things. We know they stage certain things. I think absolutely. The Boston bombing was staged, 9/11, and not staged, but like they actually are performing these. I think a lot of mass shootings and all these sort of things are also run by and played out by government or the shadow government or whatever in order to push agendas and create narratives and entice certain people to behave in certain ways.
Yeah, psyops.
Yeah, psychological ops. Yep,
absolutely.
So why not also do it with aliens?
Yeah, for sure.
That's all we have for those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, though?
Well, I mean, there's definitely, it seems like there are a lot of people out there that think that they're negative entities, obviously. I'm an open-minded skeptic with anything. They may not even be real, but they may, I don't know. Like I said, it might be one of those multiple angle things like we were talking about with good and evil,
I did have one more post.
Oh, sure.
The post that I posted with the different types of aliens.
Yeah.
I think I put, I said, do you believe in aliens? How about any of these? So there's the reptilian, Anunnaki, Palladian. I have the Zeta Gray,
I have no clue.
Zeokar, Insectoid, Octurian, Andromedan, and Feline Syrian. And they have like different pictures of them too, which is kind of interesting. Now, the Anunnaki is actually talked about in the Bible, right? In the book of Enoch.
Yes.
And that they basically have created humanity as a slave race.
That was their creation story.
To get them gold, right?
Yeah.
Which ran their spaceships or something, right?
Yeah. I think I've heard different things. I don't know for a fact, but run the spaceships and or help their failing atmosphere. Basically,
I thought I heard something about that they use the gold in their atmosphere.
Yeah, something like that.
To protect themselves from blah, blah, blah.
Maybe radiation or something.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fascinating that it is a book. It's not in the Bible. It's a book that was removed from the Bible, right? Yeah. And I think I think the book of Enoch is the one thing that really makes me question, or besides the fact that I don't trust the government, and that included King James and all of them. So I don't know that I can truly believe that everything in the Bible is written specifically from God. And there's some things that even sound like they maybe not be, because they seem agenda filled.
Yeah.
If the media can be manipulated, history can be manipulated in any way, can't the Bible? I mean, think about that. No, so Jennifer said to that, she said, I do, meaning she believes in aliens, Jennifer Smith. She said, check out Moojin Choi. I've never heard of that. He is a healer that works with blue beings. He has healed countless people from cancer to a cough, from alcoholism to addiction to corona. Oh, and addiction to corona. So we'll have to look that one up too. That's fascinating. And then Will Henry, he says, so there's a picture of the Palladian as this beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, and he says, that Palladian is pretty cute. then Dan replies and says, until she always talks to you in a monotone with no expression. And then Will says, haha, so just like my human wife.
Oh my gosh.
And then Lisa Lacey also commented on that one, said, I consider it all possible. I don't claim to know. I don't believe really in believing. I believe in knowing. All the rest I say, I consider what makes sense to me. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Does that make sense? Yes, absolutely. And then Jeremy, and I'm not going to read everything Jeremy said because he's got quite a detailed list of things, but he was talking about once upon a time, watchers, fallen angels appeared as gods, knowing that our current culture and civilization is too smart and advanced to fall for gods anymore or genies granting wishes. They appear as spacemen, spiff, and promise you amazeballs tech. And then he goes on. And I'm still curious as to what he really is thinking about it all. It sounds like he thinks that they're evil, or it's Satan or devil, demon, bad. I think he thinks it's basically bad stuff in disguise. That's what it sounds like. I gathered, if we wanted to make it in its simplest form. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, I think angels and demons are interdimensional or multidimensional or alien in some form. But wouldn't that make God? Wouldn't that make Jesus? Wouldn't that make all these beings? So I don't know. Like, I
think that just comes back to the whole point. Like, anything can be faked and manipulated. You just got to go on your gut. You can't tell anyone what's right and wrong. Because so many people
are not in alignment with their gut.
Right.
And then they're like, well, my gut said to kill that person. It's like, no. If you're in alignment with God, if you're in alignment with goodness, you cannot do harm. You cannot hurt. You just can't.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a major crisis we're having.
We are.
Like, humanity.
But I do see, it's becoming more and more clear of what is good and evil over the last couple of years. It's just like, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way.
Yeah.
Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's going to be a bright.
Yeah, you're going to keep going with this.
Anybody knows me knows I'm always talking lyrics. Oh, somebody else said something. Okay, hold on. I forgot I put it on my main page too. So Lisa Lacey said another comment. She says, I think there are different races from different places. Some have ill intent, yes, even amongst the Galactic Foundation. There are among them those with power agendas, but at higher frequencies, it's harder to manipulate.
Definitely agree with that.
Love that.
That's basically what we said.
Yeah. Paul said fallen angels, demons. Brian said, I think there's more truth to X-Files and Men in Black than we realize.
Yeah.
I agree, Brian.
Yep.
And then Tony just posted, the entire Bible is about extraterrestrials. We just said that, so
yeah.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting stuff. It's all very fascinating, very interesting, and I would love to hear your accounts, your stories, your thoughts, your ideas. Please comment below, like, subscribe, and share with everyone you know.
With that being said,
till next time, everybody,
stay high.
Congratulations, you've made it all the way to the end of this long-ass podcast. And we want to thank you for joining us. And we want to hear from you. What answers do you have to these questions? What comments do you have? What insight do you have? Share with us. And what questions do you have for the answers? Find us on all podcast apps and on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. And of course, you can find us on our website. Thanks so much for listening, and stay high, everyone.